Hey everyone, welcome to the Be Good and Do Good podcast, a show where we delve into our own unique experiences during our time as missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm your host, John, here alongside my brother and co-host, Jake. How's everything going, man?
I'm all right. I'm feeling pretty sore, actually. I'm not much of an active person.
Yeah,
But yesterday my work had this softball game for, the communication side of BYU athletics. And
yeah,
I guess I just don't move around very often because I'm really feeling it in my muscles today.
yeah. I saw the pictures. It looked really cool. Were you pitching? You're just
No,
catching
I was just like out in the outfield. That's
the
basically where
outfield.
they put the people
People
who are
that don't know that much
inexperienced.
about
Yeah, exactly. They just
softball.
put them out in the outfield because, well, if you like go like the place I figured out yesterday, the place where they hit the ball most
The
often is
most
like to the
is
left.
left field. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't put me in left field because that would have been a mistake. So they put me and my other coworker on the design team out in
Center
center
field.
and right field.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I mean, I was happy to be out there. Dad being from Peru never really taught us how to like catch with the baseball glove and everything.
Yeah,
And I had a little bit of experience with it, from
just
like
growing
just
up a
just
little
growing
bit.
up and hanging
Yeah,
out with friends and stuff like that. But I don't have much. I'm not very good at catching with the baseball glove.
yeah.
So there were many drops to be had,
Oh no.
many just sluggish plays. I actually fell and tripped after batting because after I
Wow.
hit the ball, I like let go of the bat and it like tangled up in my legs and I just ate it right
Uh,
in front of all of my coworkers. If you ask my wife, she will show you the video sometime.
oh yeah, she was recording.
She was recording because it was my first at bat and
Oh no.
I let the entire Gonzalez clan down, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty scraped up. I don't know if you can see like on my hand. There's a little
Oh
cut
no. Yeah,
right
I see
here,
it.
and
Yeah.
there's some scrapes and stuff on my leg. That might also be a part of the reason why I'm sore, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm also thinking like you do play tennis on occasion or a lot, right? And so
Yeah, I
it's
try.
it's just different muscle groups, that are
Yeah,
working when you're playing a different sport, you work out different muscle groups, and so therefore those muscle groups that you're not used to working out get sore.
yeah. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned tennis because Rachel was telling me that like you're supposed to hold like the baseball bat like kind of up, like with your elbows out,
Yeah.
kind of like this. But she was telling me that I was kind of holding it like kind of out like this, like a backhand.
You were doing like a bunt. Do you know what a bunt is?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that
But I mean, I hit it successfully every single time.
oh nice.
Whether I made it to first base or not is a different story. But
Yeah.
softball, safe to say, softball is not my game. But it
I
was fun.
I like watching baseball/softball in person more than like watching it on TV. Hot take.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's that hot of a take. Most sports are more exciting in person.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Although I
true.
do like watching football on TV. I don't know
Yeah.
more necessarily, but at least I feel like I'm more invested in the game and understand what's happening better when I'm watching it on TV than when I'm in person.
Yeah, because you
It's
don't know what's going on. I know, like,
yeah,
when
like
you're there live at BYU games, you're, like, texting mom and dad, "What happened during this play? I don't understand what the
yeah,
ref
like
is
did we get a
saying."
first down? Like because depending on where you're angled at, like you're not totally sure whether they moved 5 yards or if they moved 1 yard. Like it's kind of
Yeah,
harder to tell. So
yeah,
But, uh, but yeah, baseball's fun to watch in person for sure,
yeah,
especially on nice days.
yeah. So today, Sarah and I we're doing kind of a sport within itself with the young kids. We, have, activity days with the youngsters, and so our activity that we had planned out was making paper airplanes.
Uh-huh.
And I I debated on whether I should share the one that dad always taught us growing up, but in the end, like I didn't have that one out on display, so they were like, "I want to do this one, this one, this one," that they saw. So we ended up doing three different paper airplanes
Uh-huh.
and like flying each one and seeing which ones like got farther, and then we did like an end kind of bracket of the ones that won the first round, you know.
Just
So
pinning the youngsters against each other,
yeah.
creating young rivalries.
And then we had them just like freestyle, just go at them, like throw their paper airplanes wherever they wanted to in the cultural hall, which they just loved.
How old are these kids that are
Yeah,
in
so
activities?
normally they are 8 to 11 years old,
Yeah.
but we have such a big group that we split them in half. So we have I guess they're 7 to 11 because of the age change, where if they're turning 8 that year, they go um that into activity days. So
Yeah.
anyways, we have 7 to 9-year olds. So
Man, I
it's
would have
fun.
loved I don't know about you necessarily. I know some people share my sentiments, but I was not a huge fan of like Boy Scouts
Yeah.
in general. And so like activity days and like just I don't know what the youth do now, but I know it's not Boy Scouts, and that just sounds so much more appealing to me. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I was not a fan of Boy Scouts, to my
Uh,
detriment as I was going around in the dating world. Because if you're not an Eagle Scout in Utah, then all of a sudden your appeal is much less than it would have been if you were an Eagle Scout.
yeah. I personally liked scouts growing up, but that was just me.
I don't want to talk to you then.
I I liked
If you
going
don't
on
if you don't
campouts
no,
and
I did like campouts. Campouts were actually really fun. I was talking to my boss earlier
yeah,
this week about campouts, and they were just
yeah,
so fun. I just didn't like the pressure involved with,
of
like
getting merit
with
badges
getting
and
merit
other
badges and
badges and
exactly, like, that was
yeah.
just too much, and then I had this older brother who got his Eagle, so it put a lot of pressure on me. I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
but the funny thing is I never went to a court of honor for my Eagle Scout, so
So did you even really get your
I
Eagle?
actually don't even have, like, the badge, the Eagle
Yeah, that's so
badge.
stupid. Here, I'll buy you one off, like, Amazon for $1 or something.
Thank you, and give me it at our next family.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Or I'll just go
Present it to me.
I don't know if you've heard of Temu. Have you heard of Temu?
I have heard of Temu.
I'll just buy the knockoff version on Temu. It's like a
It's like
condor badge or
yeah, I was
something
gonna
like
say, like,
that.
Raven or something.
Yeah, you're like a Raven Scout.
Yeah, that'd be funny, that'd be
Temu's
funny.
the best. Unless, of course, like, they're using, like, sweatshops and stuff to, like,
I
manufacture all this stuff. But
yeah, who
T
knows?
I don't
Who
know,
knows?
but can't beat the price. We're gonna get
Anyways,
canceled. We're gonna get canceled even before we have a listener.
yeah. Yeah, so last week bringing that back up, last week we talked about a couple different things, but a big one was that you went on a temple trip to Philadelphia, ate some, original cheesesteaks from the original places that, like, had cheesesteaks.
Yeah, do you remember what they were called?
Geno's and Scarlatti's. No, I'm just kidding.
That was you were really confident with that. I feel like most people would have believed you. Gino's is the first one, and then Pat's is the
Pat's.
other one.
And you said that Pat's was better.
Pat's was better. It's funny actually, we talked about that last week, and then this last week I was at my in-laws' house, and we were
Mhm.
watching The Amazing Race,
Yeah.
and the Amazing Race location that they were on in that episode was Philadelphia, and
Uh-huh.
they had to go to Pat's and Gino's, and I was like, "Hey, I've been there."
Nice.
So, that was I mean, not that exciting of a story, but
Well, I have a
it
not
was
exciting
cool.
story as well. Like
Oh,
Sarah,
boy.
Sarah and I have been watching Relative Race, the new season. I've never seen it before, so this is the first time we've watched it. And they went to Pittsburgh, so we were like, "Yeah, Jacob's hometown."
That's
Just kidding.
awesome. I should watch
Yeah,
it and see,
yeah, it's pretty cool. Have you
s
seen Relative Race?
no, I haven't. Oh,
It's
actually, I have seen some of it.
It's super good. It's like it makes you want to cry each time you watch an episode because of just the sentimentality of finding people that relatives that you didn't know you had, or you have never heard of or whatever.
Yeah. Mom watches it, and I think I watched it when I was back home at some point. But yeah, I remember enjoying it.
It's super good, super good. So, what about this week, man? What's going on with your mission?
Well, we just so happened to have another baptism this week.
Woo!
Yes, for
Yeah,
those of you counting at home, I'm just kidding.
counting.
I'm not
This
gonna
is
tally my number of
your
baptisms.
second or third? I don't remember now. Second
This
in
is
this
my
podcast.
fourth.
What? Oh wait, because we had the mom and dad. I forgot about them.
Yeah, we had a couple, so that's kind of cheating. So third
Yeah,
baptism service, but fourth
yeah,
person.
that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. This week was Cheryl, who was she was somebody that we happened to meet through another member. She was the daughter-in-law of one of the members in the ward, and we were
Yeah.
able to teach her. And
Yeah,
uh
this is the story for those that don't remember of the person that was drinking tea while they were teaching the word of wisdom, and she said, "Well, this will be my last cup, I guess."
yeah, and
I remember that.
I mean, I don't know if it was her last cup, but she said it was her last cup. Sometimes you just got to take these people at face value and just.
Yeah.
But one memorable thing that I remember from her baptism was up until that point, she was keeping all of the commitments that we could
Uh-huh.
see, and she was progressing, but we weren't like super sure yet if she had like received a spiritual witness as to whether the church was true. And
Yeah.
so for those of you who haven't been to many baptismal services, which up until this point, like before my mission, I had not, um, oftentimes at the baptismal service, we like to give the option for the person who got baptized to like bear their testimony.
Okay.
And they don't always bear their testimony just because sometimes it's still really new and nerve wracking and they
Yeah.
just don't really want to,
Public
get up.
speaking.
It's hard. Yeah. It's difficult. So,
It is.
but we asked Cheryl if she wanted to, and she's like, yeah, like I'll go up and say a few words. And so
That's cool.
we had her go up, and towards the end of her testimony she was just like, guys, I know that this church is just so true. And me and like Elder White like looked at each other and were like, did she just say that she knows that the church is true? Because like I mean, you should know that
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
getting baptized, or at least you should believe it.
Yeah.
But she had never like actually come out and said it, and so that was like,
Expressed it.
yeah, it was nice because she was kind of, I don't know. She I don't know how to describe it, but she was kind of
You,
evasive in that regard, and so it was
you
nice for
you
us to
guys
be
were
able to.
just a little unsure.
Yeah, I mean,
And
as
it
missionaries,
it just happens that way. It's like,
well, we just, yeah, we do our best, but
yeah.
people are ultimately going to, do and say what they are going to do and say, and sometimes you don't fully understand their understanding, and you can just teach them and hope that
Yeah.
that they get baptized. And in this case, we were lucky enough to be able to baptize her, and it was really good experience.
I mean, it's really crazy because the requirements for baptism, besides like the word of wisdom, is that you just come to a meeting, sacrament meeting 3 times, right? At,
Well,
usually
I
not
mean,
usually in a row, but
there's also like law of chastity.
and law of chastity too. Yeah, all
Love,
those
yeah. There's
all
like,
those.
yeah, and then I guess tithing, but you don't have to pay until after you're baptized.
Yeah, and so just like trying to figure out if someone is knows not everything about the church, but enough about the church after just 3 visits, or three to the church, is like really really hard to know. So
Yeah, and sometimes you're more confident with some than you are with others.
exactly,
Um,
yeah.
and I was really confident with my first two
Three.
baptisms, first three baptisms, I
Yeah.
guess, two baptismal services.
Uh-huh.
With Stephanie and Tyler, they had been to church, a dozen times. They had gone regularly. And
Yeah.
then with Carolina, she had been pretty much every week ever since she had been in the United States, and so
Mhm.
she had gone a lot as well, and I felt like just absorbed the lessons a lot faster and a lot easier. Um,
Yeah.
but with Cheryl, I just feel like it didn't come as easily to her, and so there were a lot of question marks going into her baptism. Is she
Sure.
ready? All you can do is teach the lessons and hope that they're absorbing. And you know, we ultimately did deem that she was ready, and so it was definitely gratifying to hear that from her.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that that happened. I'm glad that she got baptized.
Yeah, me too. Me too. What's I guess speaking of word of wisdom, what's going on with you and in your mission time
Yeah.
warp?
Yeah, so last week we talked about people that obviously are name changed. So anyways, we talked about the Kovacs family, a Hungarian family that lives in state center, and we're teaching them the word of wisdom this week, along with a few other things. I know we taught them like just the we had the mom had like several questions about Mormonism and stuff, and so we just like sat with her, me and Elder Leopard, and just like answered as many questions as we could that she had, because she had a lot of questions. But
Yeah.
when we were teaching the word of wisdom to this family, like um the father was a bit uncomfortable with the lesson because he's like an avid drinker,
Yeah.
and so it, the word of wisdom is hard when you have these things that you do.
Yeah.
So um so we invited them to church and everything, and we had been helping the mom with their homework and stuff. We invited them to church, and they even started asking us like about what um what is like acceptable to wear at church and stuff, like. And so we told them, and so we were expecting them to come, but they ended up not coming. And my mind was just like, man, this family is a lot better than that. Like they're like I said last week, they seem like golden investigators. They want to know about the church. They're asking questions. They're having us over. They're feeding us, and they didn't show up to church.
Yeah, that always stings.
So, but that was what was going on with the Kovacs family this week.
Hmm.
And speaking of baptisms, if you remember a couple weeks back, Jorge got baptized, but
Hmm.
the next day he didn't show up to get confirmed.
Uh-huh.
Well, well, this is the week that he showed up to get confirmed.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so um the cool thing is that he in gospel doctrine class that same day he was answering questions about the church and things that we asked in gospel doctrine class, and so we were just like, this is awesome. Yeah, it's cool. We also had an investigator that day, who was a mom that brought her two daughters, and I'm going to call her Celeste
You always
Marino.
have like the most exotic random names for your fake investigators.
Well, that's because like their real names are so exotic. So I'm like, I had to choose like exotic names for them because it just
And
doesn't
you have
fit.
exotic names for your companions, like freaking Elder Elephant and Elder Jaguar and all of these random things.
Leopard.
Oh, sorry. Jaguar is your next companion.
Oh,
My
I
bad.
guess I guess I should do that, huh?
I don't know.
Jaguar is a great name.
That actually is a good name. You're welcome.
Thanks. And although it's really similar to leopard, so
Tomato, tomato, I guess. We'll
I
figure it
guess
out.
so. Yeah. So, anyways, we had Celeste Marino over for and her two daughters at in gospel doctrine and at church that week, which was like a real win for us. But what's interesting, and this is like a recurring theme that will pop up later on, but like people didn't really get along with Jorge, our new baptized member, just because they felt like he was a little bit I don't know. Uh I would say like what's the word for uh, I don't know. It's he was like really peppy, I guess, sometimes, and
Peppy? What the heck?
maybe
Like, energetic? Like, I don't understand what you mean by peppy.
what's like the word for when you it's like a mental illness, but it's not, like, we're
We're really walking, really
you
we
know,
gotta be careful here.
like peppy, but what's the mental for peppy? That was
Like ADHD?
yeah, maybe that, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of a word, but I can't think of the word right now.
Okay.
Anyways, people just didn't like him as much, and so it wasn't just Celeste, but it was also the Iglesias family, the less active family that came to church. They weren't a fan of him either. So that was just kind of some drama that we were having in the Spanish gospel doctrine class.
Drama always keeps the mission interesting. I feel like missionaries are always dealing with all kinds of stupid drama,
Yeah,
unnecessary drama.
yeah. I did want to say a little bit about so I was telling you earlier before this we started recording that this is the middle of October for me,
Mhm.
and so the weather's changing. We're getting sick a lot now.
Uh-oh.
Elder leopard and I got sick,
Do you
and
mean Elder
so
Jaguar?
no.
Almost. I
Anyways,
almost tricked you. Anyways, sorry. You guys are getting sick.
we're getting sick, but also like we had gone to Ames because Elder Leopard had like allergy stuff that was going on, so he had to go see
Mhm.
the doctor. And we decided to go to the mall and get some different different clothes for the winter because I didn't have winter clothes just yet, so I bought two sweaters, one jacket, and one pair of shoes for the weather. And so
Uh-huh.
we were also with other missionaries that day, because Ames is like a college town, so the missionaries just want to hang out. Anyways, one of the missionaries like, "Have you ever done the buckle challenge?"
The buckle
The
challenge?
the buckle challenge. Have you ever heard of that before?
I've never. What is that?
So there's a store in the mall called The Buckle,
Okay.
and the store just sells like just clothes that are like really high fashion. And anyways,
Do they
the
all have buckles on them?
no, no, it's just
Oh,
called The
so it's just
Buckle.
called the buckle. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
but this is like a typical mall store that you'll find in different malls around the countries, and there was a buckle in this Ames, Iowa mall. And so one of the missionaries asked us, he was kind of a jokester. He's like, "Have you ever done the buckle challenge?" And we're like, "What the heck is the buckle challenge?" And then he's like, "Go into the buckle and walk to the back of the store and try to get back to the front of the store, or well, walk to the back of the store, touch something in the back of the store, get back to the front of the store without having one of the people catch you, you know?"
Like, without having somebody come and talk to you?
Yeah, so one of the store associates come and talk to us.
That's all, like, almost impossible in a lot of mall stores.
Yeah. And what was sad is we actually decided to do this buckle challenge
Uh-huh.
because we were stupid missionaries, 19 years old. And so I remember walking to the back of the store. We made it to the back of the store, but then one of the employees at the buckle, as we were like getting to the middle of the store after going to the back, was like, "I know what you're doing. You guys are trying to do the buckle challenge, aren't you?" And so we just like run out of the store. But just like imagine the bad example we're setting
Yeah, like,
as
representing the
missionaries.
church, and
Yeah, because
I see what
we're
you're
we're
saying.
still we're still dressed up as missionaries. We're not like in regular clothes.
Yeah.
And we have white shirts and black pants on or whatever, and we're doing this stupid buckle challenge and being stupid 19.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes a lot of people forget that we are just stupid 19-year-olds. I
I
know when
know.
I was a kid, I always looked up to the missionaries as like these idols, as these guys who were like so much more spiritual than I was, and in reality, they're just teenagers that are trying their best a lot of the time.
I know,
And
exactly.
sometimes not trying their best in this situation, but I was gonna ask you, I was like, I wonder if the Buckle employees know about the Buckle challenge and they deliberately try to thwart people, and then you mentioned that he
Yeah,
knew, and I
exactly.
was like, "Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense."
But what
Uh,
was worse, it wasn't a guy, it was a girl. We know we or
yeah.
"Why are you guys trying to do the buckle challenge? Get out of my" No, she didn't actually say get out of my store, but,
Does Buckle still exist?
I've seen it since then, but I have to look it
I've
up.
heard of it. Like, I feel like when you mentioned it, I kind of have a view in my mind of what it might look like, but I don't know if it still exists.
Yeah,
But,
maybe. I mean, malls are starting to not exist, so
yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
true as well.
Well, I can look sometime later.
Okay.
What else is going
If
on?
Buckle does exist, we are
Yeah.
looking for podcast sponsors. Um, so we would be more than willing to do the Buckle challenge,
Yeah.
and we can do a podcast in a Buckle store.
That okay.
They just
That's
have to pay us in free merchandise, free Buckle merchandise. I think this is a good deal. I think that we're being generous.
I think so.
Think of the exposure they could receive.
I know, right? Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Anyways, what's going on in my mission
Yeah,
life?
what else is going on in your mission life?
Um, this is somebody who's going to be pretty pertinent going forward. Um, we met a guy named Carlos
Okay.
on my mission.
Uh-huh,
And for the one and only, maybe I shouldn't spoil this, but he is the one and only person on my mission who I baptized, who I met through street contacting alone.
nice.
Yeah, so I had a lot of different people. I was fortunate to be able to meet and baptize a lot of different people, but most of them were through other members or part member families or
Yeah,
whatever it might be,
yeah,
or even tracting. I baptized a couple people through tracting,
that's cool.
but only ever one person through street contacting, and that was Carlos, who to this day, I actually messaged him a couple days ago.
Oh, yeah,
Is still one of my really good friends, and I went and visited him when I was in Pennsylvania a few years ago,
yeah,
going back, but he. At this time, when I first met him, um, I had this perception of him that he just had the worst luck.
oh,
Um, I I met him out on the street. We were just like kind of walking through some suburbs,
uh-huh,
and he was sitting in front of this house that I think belonged to one of his cousins. I think his cousins and his cousin's daughter.
uh-huh,
Um, And he was just kinda sitting there in front of the house, and I walk up to him, and I think we've talked about this in the past, but I really was not good at street contacting. Um, if somebody, and some missionaries were so good at it, and it
yeah,
was, such a gift, but,
yeah, it is.
too often I would let people just walk right on past me without talking to them just because I was too scared or whatever, but,
We
you
talked
know
about it with the parade thing that I did, the,
Yeah,
Oktoberfest or whatever it was called
yeah,
from way back when in Marshalltown. Yeah,
for sure.
it's really hard to street contact, it's just like, mm, yeah, really nerve-wracking.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But in this situation, like we were there specifically for finding, like we weren't like headed to a lesson or headed to an appointment or whatever. We were there so that we could find people. And he
Uh-huh,
happened to be in front of this house. And so I went and talked to him.
yeah,
Um, and just like, hey, we're missionaries. And I remember I was on exchanges at the time. I can't remember with who, but uh talked to him and kind of got to know him a little bit better. And it turns out at this time um he was just going through a lot of difficult times in his life. And
mm,
the reason why he was chilling in front of his cousin's house is just because I think he was experiencing homelessness at the time. So he
oh,
was kind
no.
of crashing from couch to couch
Yeah,
and but like definitely not the stereotypical like homeless person that you think of when you think of a homeless person. Like you couldn't tell he was homeless.
sure.
He was very well kept, well groomed, nice beard, everything.
Huh,
And so we talked to him and kind of talked through some of the experiences and difficult circumstances in his life. And eventually give him a Book of Mormon
Yeah.
and um and invite him to read it about it and set up a lesson with him at this nearby park, um, which we throughout the rest of his conversion, we would meet in parks for like 85% of his lessons just because he didn't have a house at the time
Yeah.
and he was kind of just living out of his car.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and so, like I said, though, definitely not like the stereotypical homeless person. Like his car was nice. Like he was very well kept, but definitely
Yeah.
going through some tough times.
Sure.
And so we met him and set up that appointment. And I didn't know at the time, obviously, what was going to happen with him. But to this day, of all the miracles on the mission, like I'm just so grateful that was able to be there on that street at that time,
Yeah.
and that I was more than anything, like I had the guts or the spirit prompted me or whatever to go talk to him because he's one of the greatest people I met on my mission.
Yeah.
And
I
just
think I know who you're talking about too.
yeah,
Because you sent pictures of him, and he just seemed to be like a really happy guy. Is this the same guy that was in that video that you sent that was like, and this that President Kimball said that
yeah,
in his
yeah.
PowerPoint?
Later on during one of our lessons, he made a PowerPoint presentation because we had challenged him to teach us the plan of salvation.
Yeah.
And so he made a PowerPoint presentation for it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll talk about that, I'm sure, sometime in the next few weeks. But I mean, if
Yeah.
that's any indication as to what a great member he eventually became
Yeah.
and the level of intelligence and dedication that he had, like Carlos is just the absolute best. And I love him, to this day and still try to chat with him regularly.
He seems like a really great guy and like really happy and just lovable. From the
That's a
things
good
that
way
you
to
from the
yeah.
things you sent. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe him. Like he was super lovable, super funny, really funny sense of humor, like super down to earth.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if you maybe interacted with him on Facebook or if I think maybe he sent a message to mom on Facebook.
Mhm.
But he was just so, you know, willing to just do anything and go all out for God and for, for others. So
Yeah.
definitely very grateful to have met him.
Yeah. I see a note here that you, started to have smartphones on your mission.
Yeah, that's something that I was not prepared for and was not looking forward to. I don't know. I think that, there's a couple of different types of missionaries. There's the missionaries who want to go on a mission and kind
Uh-huh.
of like totally forget the world and just be diligent and focus on the work. And that was kind of how I was, at least at this point in my mission. And to me, smartphones sounded a lot like a distraction.
Sure.
And they are if you
They
misuse
are.
them.
Yeah.
I'm sure my wife would be the first person to tell you, like, so she used a smartphone a lot
Yeah,
on the mission
because
because she was a
she was a
COVID
COVID,
missionary.
yeah.
And so I mean, she'll be the first one to say that you can get a lot of use out of them, and they're definitely a blessing if you utilize them correctly. But with introducing this type of technology to missionaries, there's going to be a lot of people who abuse it.
Yeah.
And to this point, um, I had had a tablet,
Yeah.
um,
I
which was
remember you buying that tablet too.
yeah, which was awesome. Like I loved the tablet, but like we didn't have Wi-Fi most of the time. And so
Uh-huh.
like it was mainly used for like scriptures and like note taking, and like that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
Um but smartphones were about to be introduced to our mission, and that was, the beginning of this whole this whole thing, cuz not only did we get smartphones, but we also got Facebook
Oh, yeah.
on the mission as well, which I was not a fan of, you know.
Yeah, and if people remember from when I talked about Ames and that and, like, those missionaries that would go to the college libraries and just be on Facebook and just, like,
Yeah. It's
it's just a big distraction.
yeah, it's just distracting, and it's not keeping your eyes single to the glory of God. And you know,
Yeah.
and it's so hard. Like, it's so,
Yeah.
so, so hard. Like,
Yeah.
what do you I don't know. So, after I got smartphones and after I got Facebook, I was I was pretty good at keeping what's called the safeguards for using technology. There were rules that were
Uh-huh.
associated with having these technological devices. And so for
Yeah.
the first little bit after I got a smartphone, I was pretty good. But then, of course, I kind of slipped
Sure.
and got worse and worse and worse. And then finally, at one point, I'm on the mission. I was like, I need to be better about this. Like, I'm not being as obedient as I could be. So I repented and became a lot better about keeping safeguards. But
Yeah.
one of the hardest safeguards to keep was you're not allowed to be on the device without your companion being able to see the screen
Sure, yeah.
at all times. And so that was really hard. Like,
Yeah.
it sounds easy, but
But
it's it's inconvenient a
yeah,
lot of the time.
yeah.
Like, for example, like, I know a lot of the missionaries, who were out at the time had study desks that, like, faced each other
Okay, yeah.
so that, like, when they did comp study, they could already be, like, facing each other. So they would be on 2 desks that were, like, facing each other, so they
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to see what the other person was studying.
Uh-huh.
And so I mean, that's just one example, but we had to reconfigure the way the study desks were put together so that we could be on our devices during study time and our
Yeah.
companions could see our screens.
Oh,
But like, let's say I want to text somebody back. Like, if I'm across the room and we get a text, like, I need to go over to my companion and stand next to them and text somebody back.
sure.
And so I don't know that maybe it sounds a lot. I mean, it sounds like it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it was annoying for in some situations. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it, but it was annoying, and I was not good at keeping it for the first. Well, I was pretty good the first part, but like the middle part of my mission, I feel like I kind of fell off. So,
Yeah. I think missionaries go through those kinds of things a lot with different rules and stuff,
oh
so
yeah, oh yeah,
so
I maybe I shouldn't admit this. I don't know. I was not good. One aspect of the mission rules that I didn't super agree with at the beginning of my mission and learned and gained a testimony of later in my mission.
yeah.
And looking back, I was an idiot because something bad could have happened. Was the rule regarding like being like having a male person present at every lesson,
Mm,
like, or either that or you have to do it outside or you have to reschedule.
with the opposite sex, you
Yeah,
mean?
sorry, yes, with the opposite sex, like, we
Yeah,
as we as a companionship cannot be alone with a member of the opposite sex,
yeah.
and I thought it was the worst rule ever. Like, it was so inconvenient because, there'd be so many situations where you're out tracting or you're
Mhm.
teaching or whatever, and you knock on the door of somebody,
Yeah,
a woman who is willing and excited to hear your message,
yeah,
and you're like, "Hey, is there a guy in the house here?" And she's like, "Oh, no, sorry. Is that gonna be a problem?" And you're like, "Oh, yeah, sorry. Can we come back later?" And then that opportunity is missed and you never see them again.
yeah,
And like,
yeah,
you don't have as much of an opportunity to teach or bear testimony of what you know to be true because there's not a guy present. Or And so I was not great at like following that for some parts of my mission. And
yeah,
that was really stupid of me. Um, but
sure.
fortunately for me, nothing ever happened. But I mean, if you're a missionary or a future missionary listening to this podcast, that's a really important rule that
It
you need to
is.
follow. Even when it seems innocent and even when it seems like, nothing wrong could possibly happen, like, you always need to be on your guard about that.
Yeah. I think another one, which is gonna be really, prevalent in my mission coming up with Elder Leopard is how much time you spend at less active members' houses, and
Mm,
specifically what you do at less active members' houses that might not be missionary work. So like what I'm talking about is Elder Leopard and I would go to the Iglesias family's house and we just like hang out, and then not just hang out but also like watch TV and watch movies. And that's also another rule that you should keep, is not watching TV on your mission, because
Yeah.
it's not good. So anyways, I want to be talking about that future episodes, because that becomes a major problem with me and Elder Leopard in the future. But it's, the rules are important. That's what we're trying to,
The
that's what
rules are
we're
there
trying to
for a reason.
that's what we're
For
trying to
sure.
do. That's what we're trying to say. Rules are important. They're there for a reason. Yeah. uh
Absolutely.
I did want to say one more thing before we head to our my scriptural nugget and your
Yeah.
preach my gospel nugget. So this week in my mission, we did have zone conference, and what I gathered from zone conference from President Talbot this week was that he challenged us to go to members' houses and have spiritual experiences with them. He said this would spark a spirit of missionary work in the homes. And I feel like that's good advice. Like, for missionaries, is to go to members' homes and have spiritual experiences with them so that they can have the spark of missionary work in their home. And I think this is like not just when you have dinner with them, but also when you're just going to the members' homes to teach them different lessons and stuff. So
Agreed.
good
It's the
stuff.
best way to find new people to teach.
I know exactly. Yeah, yeah. The referrals from
Yeah.
members.
But once again, just really quick, it's very easy to use that as an excuse to go to members' homes
Exactly.
and slack off, you know? And
That might
so
that might be what the precursor to what happens between with me and Elder Leopard and the Iglesias family up coming up ahead. So
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
it's I mean, with everything, there's 2 sides and it's a slippery slope for sure. Because members are the best, you know? You wanna spend time with them because 'cause they're like-minded people who understand what you're doing and oftentimes wanna spoil you because you're a missionary and they make you
exactly.
feel good, and so you wanna
Yeah.
spend as much time with them as possible, but if it's not fulfilling your missionary purpose, then it shouldn't be done, but, of course, I abused that. I'm sure you did too on your mission, and so
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's definitely a slippery slope.
it is. So getting back to scriptural nugget for this week,
Yeah.
some words from Christ. I've been reading a lot from John, not because my name is John, but I love the book of John, honestly. And so in John 15, he says, verses 12 to 14, "This is my commandment, that ye love one another as I have loved you. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Ye are my friends, if ye do whatsoever I command you." And so I chose this one, not knowing that Jacob was going to talk about one of his friends from the mission, and just like um, in Carlos Garcia, I think when we go out on our mission and we meet these people that choose um, to follow Jesus Christ and be baptized, they also ultimately become our friends, our family, or the people that we loved on our mission. And so Jesus Christ gave his life for his friends, and as missionaries we should do that too. We not, give our life as a sacrifice to for our friends. So
Yeah, absolutely. Loving the people is so important. It's 90% of, what kept me out of my mission was just the people that I met and, the relationships I was able to develop with them.
yeah,
And so not only is important for you to be able to have the capacity to teach them, but it's important for you to be able to, endure the hardships of being a missionary as well,
it's true.
which there are definitely a lot of those. So
Yeah,
awesome. So my preach my gospel nugget for this week is um, in relation to street contacting,
nice.
because even though I didn't have a ton of success with it on my mission, I did have a little bit, and it led to one of my best friends from the mission. So it says there in preach my gospel under the chapter about finding, it's under what's called talk to everyone is the heading. the what it says is talk with as many people as you can each day. Talk with them wherever you go. Where appropriate, go from home to home. The Lord instructed some of the early elders of the church, open your mouth to declare my gospel. He then promised that their mouths would be filled with what to teach. And, although street contacting can be awkward and it's really difficult to get the guts to do it, like I definitely have a testimony that my mouth was filled to have the right things to say at different times throughout my mission. And sometimes, you'll go into a situation thinking that you're going to say something, and then the spirit or the conversation leads you in a different route. And
Yeah.
that's something that you can always rely on, that you'll be able to have your mouth filled through the spirit and by the Lord.
There's a lot of like stories that come from street contacting, because sometimes you meet like good people, not good people, like fun people, and people that like Carlos Garcia, who becomes like gets baptized, or sometimes you just meet some crazy people that say the darndest things.
Yeah, that's definitely probably a little bit more often.
Yeah,
One
I
thing that I
know a lot more.
realized one thing that I realized, I know this is a little bit off topic, but one thing that I realized on my mission was that 60% of people in the world are just kind of strange. I don't know if this is rude, but you interact with
Yeah,
different people every single day, but so many of them just live so differently from how
yeah,
you would live, and make such different decisions, and are just so different personality wise from you, that a lot of your mission is just meeting people who are so different from you and you don't really
exactly.
understand, and
Yeah,
honestly are a little weird and a little bit different, and you learn to love them and you learn to value those experiences. But it never changes the fact that I didn't realize how many weird people were in the world until my mission.
yeah, I know. It's so funny. That
Especially out in the Midwest
I
and on
know,
the East
right?
Coast. I don't know. Pennsylvania is the East Coast, I guess. Maybe all throughout the US,
I
honestly.
guess I guess the East Coast slash Midwest is not gonna endorse this podcast based
There's
off of what
still
you said.
time.
There is still time.
That's what repentance is for, man. We
Oh,
can we can rescind all of these statements later on if we need to.
yeah, we could say we're
If
sorry.
if we just delete this podcast, no one will know. No one will know.
Well, I think that goes along with the question that I just thought of right now, which is what success or what experiences did you have while you were street contacting? Um,
It's a good one.
yeah, so we love to hear all of your experiences.
Absolutely, guys. Please reach out to us through our different social, like on Instagram or on YouTube, at Be Good Do Good Pod. We're really happy to be able to share these stories with you guys from our missions. We obviously loved our missions a lot, and we learned so many valuable experiences from them and met so many interesting, crazy, sometimes weird people. But we'd love it if you guys could rate us on YouTube or on Spotify, give us a like or a follow, or just leave a comment. We love to hear from you guys. So please feel free to share any experiences or comments that you have on this podcast. Also, please, if you know anybody who is going to be going on a mission soon, or just returned from a mission, or just somebody who likes the missionaries or whatever it might be, please share this podcast with them. It's a great way to get the message around, and get this podcast in the ears of more people. So we love you guys. Thank you so much. And please remember once again to be good and do good.